I believe the president is speaking right now. Can we take a live listen in there?
Save them, but this is now taken it to a level that I think, Lee, that nobody ever thought even possible. They thought this was, nobody would have the courage to do it. We have to have the courage to do it because we're making America great again. This is a big factor in making our country great. If you look at some of these cars, they didn't even work. They had computers all over the place trying to save a half an ounce of fuel. We have fuel for the next 500 to 1,000 years under our feet, and they're trying like hell to save a half an ounce of fuel. The whole thing is just crazy. Please, go ahead, please.
Mr. President, is climate cooperation with China no longer in America's interest? And could you please confirm that you're going to visit China the first week of April?
Yeah, I'll be visiting President Xi in April. Look forward to it. He's coming here later in the year, and I look very much forward to it. No, our relationship with China is very good right now, and this is, not relevant too much having to do with China, what we're announcing today. But no, my relationship with President Xi is very good. Yes.
Mr. President, following your meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday, has your thinking changed at all as it relates to these negotiations with Iran or the timeline with Iran?
We have to make a deal, otherwise it's going to be very traumatic. Very traumatic. I don't want that to happen, but we have to make a deal. They should have made a deal the first time, and they got Midnight Hammer instead. And this will be very traumatic for Iran if they don't make a deal. Look, if they don't make a deal, then it'll be a different story. But we had a very good meeting yesterday with Bibi Netanyahu, and he understands. But it's ultimately up to me. If the deal isn't a very fair deal and a very good deal with Iran, then it's going to be, I think, a very difficult time for them in the back. I guess over the next month, something like that. Yeah, it shouldn't take, it should happen quickly. They should agree very quickly, yeah.
Mr. President, we might be heading into a partial government shutdown. When was the last time you spoke with Chuck Schumer, and do you still feel Democrats are negotiating in good faith?
Well, a week ago I spoke, but, we have to protect our law enforcement. Actually, the Supreme Court gave a ruling, or one of the courts gave a very big ruling on masks, that you have the right to use them, for personal protection if you want. So I don't know how that interjects. They want our law enforcement to be totally vulnerable and put them in a lot of danger. They have some things that are really very hard to approve, frankly. As you know, it only...
All right, you've been listening live to the president speaking right now. Let's bring in CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman. Willie, I know you and I were both listening to this at the same time. You're also processing this news. But listen, the threat to the environment and to human health posed by greenhouse gases has so far received pretty broad scientific consensus. So just back up for a second here and explain where this came from, what the motivation of this announcement today is.
Yeah, that's right. Broad consensus amongst other nations around the world as well. But this president in particular has continued to blast climate change as a hoax, saying that things like windmills cost more money, that they're not good uses of government resources and funding. Now, today, this announcement in particular is focused on what's called the endangerment finding, the legal and scientific justification for the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, to regulate fossil fuel emissions coming from cars and trucks. The White House says that regulation, the Obama-era regulation, is unnecessary, that it costs consumers money, it makes cars more expensive. That's what the Trump administration is saying. They say that taking back this rule would mean that consumers would be able to purchase vehicles. They'll be more affordable to those consumers. So this is a significant step for this White House in a rollback of climate policy. We, of course, know that the president has worked to roll back other major regulations, but this one is certainly significant with this announcement today, Chanel.
And Willie, I know you might not have all the answers right now because we're just watching this happen live at this point, but is there any scientific backing to rolling this back?
Well, this is certainly a policy initiative that the White House is saying. They're not saying that they're doing this because of a scientific process. They're saying they're simply doing this to roll it back to save consumers money, that somehow cars will be less expensive. The president oftentimes talks about the Green New Scam, referring to the Green New Deal, a major piece of legislation or a hope that Democrats had years ago that did not make its way through Congress. But this one, based off of a policy move today, the White House believes will save consumers money, Chanel.
And Willie James, I also want to ask you about another big piece of news. The Trump administration now working to sort of expand efforts to strip citizenship from people who were born in other countries but who are now American. So who are they targeting here, and will those efforts be successful?
Yeah, it's unclear at this point if they will ultimately be successful, but they have reportedly started sending out government agents or experts to field offices to review some of those applications with naturalized citizens. As you mentioned, those citizens born overseas, they went through the process to become American citizens. Specifically, the Trump administration is reportedly focused on people who committed fraud or misrepresentation. Now, these cases are rare to revoke citizenship from naturalized citizens here in the United States, but the Trump administration making this effort as part of the immigration crackdown that the president has signaled that he wants DHS and other agencies within the government to carry out.
Okay, Willie James Inman live for us with this breaking news. Thank you.